KRBC Abilene's local news starts right now with breaking news.
This just into our newsroom. Abilene veterans of foreign wars post busted for illegal gambling. Court documents say on Thursday, detectives seized nearly $2,200 in cash, gambling computers, a checkbook, and other gambling paraphernalia.
This follows a year-long undercover investigation by Abilene police. The undercover detective making multiple trips into the VFW, including confronting the commander about the illegal gambling. At this hour, it's unknown if any arrests have been made.
After an Abilene man went missing 1 week ago, investigators now believe he is the victim of a homicide. As we're uncovering, Eric Vincent Torres, the man on your screen, has not been heard from since he traveled to Tom Green County for a possible job last Friday, this according to the county sheriff's office. Officials state his last known whereabouts were on Duckworth Road in San Angelo. Torres' ex-wife Kristen Jennings also happens to have a home in that same area. As KRBC first alerted to you yesterday, the sheriff's department executed a search warrant at Jennings' home in Harriet, Texas. This follows after Jennings entered a residence here in Taylor County the day Torres went missing, assaulting his mother and forcibly taking their 4-year-old child. She later was arrested in connection to that crime for burglary of a habitation with intent to commit another felony. And her husband, Stephen Jennings, arrested for tampering with physical evidence with intent to impair, along with her father, Gary. As for Torres' missing truck, it was recovered in a parking lot of a Walmart in Ballinger 2 days after Jennings' home was searched. It is now being processed for evidence. But Torres is still considered missing, so if anyone has any information about his disappearance, please contact investigators at the number you see here on your screen. And as details unfold, we'll alert you first on our BCH2Go mobile app. 2 more investigations in the Key City this afternoon. First, a teenager is dead after being struck by a vehicle this morning. She was walking along the intersection of Judge Ely and East North 16th after being transported to Hendricks, then to a Fort Worth hospital. She passed away due to injuries. As of news time, no citation has been issued to the driver. Alcohol is not believed to be a factor. And another investigation headline, 1 suspect in custody after shots were fired outside a South Abilene home. Police say the suspect went over to the home upset and fired gunshots into the air. They will be charged with deadly conduct once they have been booked. We turn now to weather. I've been monitoring a cooling trend. We've talked about that, but Randy, thank you. Moving over to Eastland, the city is on the verge of getting a brand new wastewater treatment plant, something staff say is desperately needed. The issue, however, is going to cost quite a bit to pay for the upgrades, a change that would almost double Eastland residents' water bills. Our John McMichael is speaking with the city manager, getting answers about why this change could affect residents for the next 20 years.
Okay, what you're looking at is the current City of Eastland wastewater treatment plant.
It's one very vital piece of infrastructure for any town, but in this town it's aging, and according to Eastland City Manager Ron Duncan, it's beginning to fail.
And with no redundancy in it, it's led us to permit violations.
More than once, one piece of equipment has given out, causing a scramble to fix the outdated technology before the plant runs out of storage space.
Basically, after about 4 days, if we don't get this thing operating, then we run into trouble.
But not to worry, because the Texas Water Development Board has provided grant money totaling over $7.5 million to the city of Eastland to improve on their wastewater treatment plant.
Any money that's left over after the plant is constructed, we want to put back into paying off debt service.
Because, of course, the grant will have to be paid back, and according to the city manager, Eastland has opted to pay it back over a course of 20 years.
We actually got loan forgiveness for over $834,000 of it.
But even with this, there will still be millions to pay back.
We don't have any choice but to upgrade the plant, but at the same time, in order to meet our debt obligation, we're going to have to raise sewer rates.
According to Eastland City staff, the current sewer bill is just over $24 a month. The addition to the rate will almost double it.
About a little over $22.
Each month?
Each month. And that's a tough pill for our residents to swallow.
Now, the good news, according to Mr. Duncan, is that the town has had traditionally low sewer rates.
The bad news is this year we're going to have to increase them because of our operating costs.
But, of course, the plant is a necessity. The current plan is to build the new plant on the footprint of the old one over the next 2 years, and when it's done,
we will simply turn a valve which will shut off the flow of water into this version of the plant and shift it to the new plant, and then we will abandon these structures.
Reporting, John McMichael, KRBC, Abilene's local news.
Okay, John, thank you. So, quick recap, the grant for about $7.5 million. The project will take 2 years to pay off the most recent project, and this future one could take 20 years. But city staff say the new plant will be incredibly dependable.
In your Texas agriculture news tonight, agribusiness contributes nearly $1 billion to our economy, so it serves right that not only the amount of crops are important, but also the quality. One of the biggest contributors to our agriculture economy is cotton. It brings more than $240 million, and this year cotton producers are saying the crop is doing all right despite spotty rainfall and severe weather and wind that takes a toll on a lot of crops. Still, producers are all in the same boat, just trying to make it through another season.
No, it's the same story everywhere. You know, there's people that we had to plant more than once in a few spots because of the wind and the rain and the hail, but I think everything's going to be okay.
Cotton producer Bryce Rhoda adds when wheat is having the hardest time this year, typically wheat harvest contributes more than $100 million into the big country economy each year.
High winds and lower humidity, the perfect recipe for wildfires, but luckily in Abilene, we're currently the home of the only open firefighting aircraft base. Set up on the Abilene Airport premises, it's a single-engine tanker base where they use firefighting aircraft carrying a fire retardant to help combat wildfires, something officials say is helpful when combating smaller fires.
Yeah, so aircraft can work on any size fire, but they're most effective on smaller fires. So if we can get the aircraft to do drops while the fire is still small and slow that fire's growth, it allows our firefighters on the ground time to contain that fire.
Members of Texas A&M Forest Service are always on standby for emergency calls. They say it takes about 15 minutes to send a plane to its location, and they can cover a range from Amarillo to Austin.
And in case you missed it, 2 congressmen will be visiting Dyess Air Force Base. During the trip, the pair will be meeting with local officials and taking a tour of the base. Congressman Arrington telling KRBC it's a great opportunity to experience Abilene's support for Dyess.
New tonight in your Texas Report, Energy Secretary Rick Perry is backing up the president's stance on transgender people in the military. Today, the former Texas governor toured the assembly lines at Daikin Texas Technology Park. It manufactures heating, ventilation, and cooling products.
Perry, who served in the Air Force, was asked about President's proposed ban on transgender people after serving in the military.
But I think that the idea that the American people need to be paying for these types of operations to change your sex is not very wise from a standpoint of economics. So, I totally support the president in his decision.
A recent study commissioned by the Department of Defense estimated the cost of health care coverage related to transgender troops ranges from about $2 to $8 million.